In a speech in San Francisco today on the eve of the first Democratic debate, one of Hillary Clinton's most recognizable and controversial polarizing advocates, David Brock, laid out the case against Bernie Sanders, her main opponent right now, without mentioning by name. According to BuzzFeed, which got an advance copy of the remarks, Brock called Clinton the real progressive champion in the race with, quote, real plans that work, ambitious, specific, and realistic plans to tackle the problems of our time. This comes after Sanders took an implicit shot at Clinton yesterday on Meet the Press.
From day one, I opposed the Keystone Pipeline because I believe that if you're serious about climate change, you don't encourage the excavation and transportation of very dirty oil. That was my view from day one. TPP. I believe that our trade policies going way back when. I voted against NAFTA, CAFTA, PNTR with China. I think they have been a disaster for the American worker, allow corporations to shut down here, move abroad. So people will have to contrast my consistency and my willingness to stand up to Wall Street and corporations, big corporations, with the secretary.
Up until now, Sanders has mostly resisted opportunities to attack the Democratic frontrunner. We'll see what happens tomorrow night in Vegas. And as the big event approaches, there's ongoing discord over the limited number of Democratic primary debates, just 6 compared to 11 for the Republicans, and the somewhat mysterious criteria for candidates to participate. While 3 of the Democratic candidates, Lincoln Chafee, Martin O'Malley, and Lawrence Lessig, all scored less than 0.5% in the latest national polling, only 2 of them get to take part tomorrow. Lessig is the only one being excluded from the debate stage. This is what it will look like, according to the debate host CNN. Clinton in the middle, flanked by Sanders and O'Malley, with Chafee and Jim Webb holding down the edges. Meanwhile, there's an emergency podium on standby for Joe Biden in case he decides to jump in at the last second. Now, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard, a Hawaii Democrat who serves as a DNC vice chairwoman, says the organization, the DNC, disinvited her after she called for more Democratic debates. The DNC disputes her account. In response, the Sanders campaign offered Congresswoman Gabbard an extra ticket. And Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard joins me now, just promoted from captain to major by the Hawaiian Army National Guard. Congratulations, Congresswoman. Could this possibly be the case? Did they really disinvite you because of this?
Aloha, Chris. It's good to talk to you. The answer is yes, plain and simple.
How do you know that?
I was actually on your network. I was on MSNBC speaking with Steve on Meet the Press Daily. The very next day, I landed after a red-eye flight from Hawaii back to D.C. And landed to a message saying that Debbie Wasserman Schultz's chief of staff had called mine and said we saw her on MSNBC. And basically, I'm paraphrasing, but if she continues this, then we really don't think she should be at the debate.
Why do you think, why such a strong reaction? I know the DNC sort of came up with their basic plan for the debates, and they want to make sure that people don't go to unsanctioned debates. You're punished if you do. But it really does seem like, Democrats have not been in the public eye as much as Republicans. They're having fewer debates. They have fewer candidates, obviously. It seems like you can disagree about that, and there's no reason for there to be necessarily bad blood about it.
You're right, Chris, especially when we're dealing with an issue as serious as democracy, as serious as our freedom of speech. I spent this morning at the Punchbowl National Cemetery of the Pacific and had a chance to reflect on the thousands of people who literally gave their lives for our country, fighting for these freedoms, for these rights that we hold near and dear to our hearts. We've got to remember, freedom is not free. There is a very high cost to these freedoms that I'm talking about and that we're talking about. So with this issue of debates, with this issue of whether or not, I should be allowed to disagree or whatever the case may be, these aren't just words. This isn't just games. This goes down to the core principles of democracy that so many of my brothers and sisters in uniform have literally sacrificed their lives for, and more people should be calling up and should be standing up and calling it for what it is.
Well, one of the things I'm curious to see happen tomorrow night, I think so far it's largely been somewhat polite, which is fine. I like politeness and civility as much as anyone else. But, there are actual issues. There's disagreement. Politics is about conflict. And I think, and I'm curious what you think, it's okay if the candidates in the Democratic Party go at each other a little bit about areas that they have disagreement.
Well, Chris, I think this is the whole point of why the American people deserve more opportunities to hear from our presidential candidates. they should have an opportunity to be able to delineate their differences in positions, to talk about their different views and how they approach things that we're facing today in our country and the path that they would like to take the American people on going forward as our commander-in-chief, as our president. So creating these opportunities for the American people to hear from our presidential candidates, to hold them accountable for decisions they've made in the past or the vision that they're outlining for the future is critical to our democracy, and it's critical to making it so that the American people are best equipped with the right information as they make this important decision on who our next president should be.
The operating assumption by Martin O'Malley and others is that this relatively constrained debate schedule was done to essentially rig things for Hillary Clinton. Do you think that's true?
I don't know. There's a lot of speculation flying around. I think it's not really relevant to the call to action that I and so many others across the country are doing right now. That is, the American people deserve more opportunities, more debates, getting rid of this exclusivity clause that essentially punishes people in their communities if they try to invite the presidential candidates to come and engage with them, as we say in Hawaii, to talk story, to discuss the important issues that are affecting American families all across the country and are affecting us abroad.
All right. Thank you, Congresswoman Tulsi Gabbard. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Up next, we'll take a close look at what to expect tomorrow night as the Democratic candidates prepare to take the stage for the first time.
And the parties wouldn't talk to each other.